I've been kind of off the grid for a little bit, and they didn't know about the call from yesterday, right? So I wanted to explain, why am I even doing this call? The one and only answer I can get right now is Toby. Toby is manning this ship. He just opened his own mentorship group himself, and I'm part of the starting lineup of calls of guest speakers and topics that he's going to be putting out. So shout out to Toby for setting this whole thing up. You guys can follow him on IG, on YouTube. I believe it's the same username, right? Toby Rosario, and gives away a lot of gems on his own YouTube channel and his own content. So I'm in full support of what he's doing, and I just wanted to give him a formal shout out on the call before we get into the sauce. So shout out Toby. He'll be in the chat as well. He's in the call right now, monitoring the chat and everything, and he'll be probably going back and forth with me on the Q&A stuff. So we'll go into that. Also, though, the reason why I was really motivated and convinced Toby to go ahead and let the link come out to the free audience that I have is this chart right here, which if you guys have been following me for a little while, it's something I post kind of regularly, and it's a funny meme kind of, but it's also, I thought, really impactful. This is actually something I've had in my photo gallery since like 2017, and it definitely changed my life. And this pie chart here, you guys can read it. It shows the sliver of information that we know, and then there's a tiny bit more of information that we know we don't know, but then there's an entire galaxy of information that we're just walking around day to day, not knowing that we don't even know. And we're just completely chill with the fact, because how can you be, worried about something you don't even know you're missing out on? And the purpose of this call is to at least put that information in front of you in a way that makes that kind of hit for you, like a little light bulb of, okay, maybe I should start digging in this little area of information, because prior to that, I was just walking around ignorance is bliss, and now I've at least had it presented to me once. So if I can do that for anybody, that's my goal with the call. Even if, like I said, a lot of it could go over your head because it's so advanced later on in the slides, at least I'm putting it in front of you, right? And that being said, you're going to learn a ton of stuff on this call. So I wanted to give this disclaimer like I did yesterday. I would say avoid impulse applying for stuff. Avoid, just frantically going at the credit space. It's definitely all chess moves. And I would say wait until we fully explain everything, and then wait until the Q&A section. So you can write down maybe practical steps that you're thinking of doing, and we can work on them after we've clarified that that's the right thing to do. My DMs are always open. I'm sure Toby's DMs are always open. So you can also make posts in groups or, our inboxes, and we'll, try to get to them to clarify. In the last call, like Toby was mentioning, we did yesterday, we talked about why personal credit is the foundation to your business funding success and all other advanced areas of credit. Anything that you hear people talking about with 0% stuff or travel hacking or tons of cashback bonuses or leveraging your credit, it's all based on personal, even if we're talking about the business side. And that can sound like an oxymoron, but we'll get into it. So why PG, right? Why do I say how to PG your way to 350K instead of no PG or more flashy stuff that people like to talk about, right? It's because the fact of the matter is that major banks are going to make you PG for their business credit cards, at least the major banks and the good products that we want, the high limit ones, the ones with the great point setups and all that. That means they're going to be pulling your personal credit profile. So even though it's a business approval, they're going to be pulling your personal credit. These are probably the top banks that you've heard when you're looking into the funding space. All those listed right there, all of those are going to ask for a PG. Some of them have like a higher level corporate credit side, like Amex has corporate credit cards or Chase has a corporate credit line of service or whatever. Those are for businesses that are doing millions in revenue, and they're also years old, and it's a definitely way down the line type of thing. It's also harder to get. And just because something's an OPG also doesn't mean it's no accountability. I mentioned that yesterday. It's not like you can just run off on those. Those are big deals. So it's hard to even get those in the first place. But don't think that you can just skirt around that PG qualification or requirement with like net 30s or stuff you see online about building business credit. So personal credit is 100%, like I said, the foundation. You can think of personal credit or, PGing for business credit products as jumper cables to your business credit. It just skips all the BS and you can get straight to the good stuff, straight to the good products with an LLC or a sole prop. You guys know, like I kind of mentioned sole prop probably more than most people when we're talking about funding and stuff. And to answer the question straight up, yes, a brand new LLC even can get business funding using your personal credit alone. So just PGing. And I myself got to $250,000 in funding on my own with at the time it was a 3-month LLC that I applied through. Before I even knew what a Paydex or a Net 30 or all the business credit, jargon was, I just had A1 personal credit that I had figured out how to get to, and I had good banking relationships. So I had a few bank accounts open with some history behind that bank. So remember, so this is how I would consider like looking at your personal file. Once you understand it and once you can get it pristine and, ideally to an 850, not everyone can get there because of age and all that stuff. Shout out to David, if he's in the chat. We just got his dad a perfect 850 score. It was the craziest screenshot to wake up to, but it is possible. But you don't need to go up to the 800 club plus to get, funding results. But yeah, once your credit is, I would say A1, and we talked about those factors that make it an A1 profile yesterday, you can use it to repeatedly serve you on the business side, and it itself can look untouched. So your utilization can stay low, your increase can stay low, all that. Meanwhile, you're doing multiple funding rounds on the business side. And so it's basically just something you put behind those velvet ropes and you make it just sit there and look pretty while you use it and leverage it on the business side. That's the goal. And the model that we used to explain that yesterday was, this is how I personally get like personal credit profiles to being fundable. It was a framework that I created called the Grow, Treat, and Go method. A little bit more of a insight on each of the steps. You guys can screenshot this if you want. I would say everybody should make sure that they're going along this timeline if they're starting from scratch. Step one would be to establish those banking relationships, especially for banks that you're going to want to apply for credit with in the future. And then cleaning up your personal information is actually really important, making sure everything's accurate on your personal info for each of the 3 credit bureaus that are commonly used, and then starting to build your base of credit accounts. So a mixture of installment accounts and revolving accounts. So credit cards and loan products. Treating your credit right, obviously that's just part of the game. So I recommend usually 4 to 6 months of treating your base of credit correctly. And then, pruning or like fine tuning that credit by getting credit limit increases if you can. If there's soft pull available, meaning that they're not going to impact your credit, to get an increase on those credit limits, the higher the better generally, because that'll influence the high limits on the business side, what you're, able to be trusted with. And then moving on to the go phase, that's our first personal sequence phase. That's when I show you how to, we talked about this yesterday, but I show you how to soft pull pre-qualify. So it's basically guaranteed approvals on your first personal funding sequence, and then gardening, and then going for your first real business funding sequence. So I'm going to put that all together in this call, and we're going to actually go through like a live walkthrough of 0 to 350K plus all together. And it's going to get kind of crazy. So I try to condense it. I said it's only 40 slides, but the 40 slides are like very jam-packed. And so you're just going to have to follow along. Any questions that come up, if they're not answered in the, the next few slides, we'll get to it in the Q&A. And we got a solid like 2-hour window. So I'm stoked